fabulous. It's Fabulous 500, another $5 scratch game from the NLE, loaded with $500 cash prizes.
With a top prize of $25,000.
You have 10 chances to win.
Fabulous $500.
There's cash to catch with just a scratch. Fabulous. Fabulous 500.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, June 4th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
Erasmus Wiley, Glasgow, and I'm feeling perfectly fine. I just had the vaccine and I'm trying to encourage each and everyone to come and get the vaccine. It's important. Life goes on, but with this vaccine, it makes it even easier. Because of the field we are in, we are actually at the front. So each taxi driver should come and take this vaccine because trust me, it will be important to each and every one of us going forward.
Do not procrastinate, but rather let us vaccinate.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
Hello and hi.
Hello everyone, I am Shakel Bob. I am a former Miss Pitani, a former Miss Rural SCG and Miss LCD contestant and runner-up. I'm a lawyer by profession but a pageant lover at heart. Do not let the negatives prey on your mind because a stitch in time saves 9. So, it's COVID vaccination time. Get vaccinated today to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right.
On Friday, June 4th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $290,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $290,000.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
welcome to this week's edition of Roundtable Talk. Today, our special guest is Dr. JERROL Thompson, who is an infectious diseases specialist, and he's also an advisor to the SVG COVID Task Force. We have not spoken COVID in quite a while on this program. COVID has not gone anywhere. Tell us what's happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in that respect. Where are we?
Well, first of all, I must say that I typically would be wearing a mask, but you and I are fully vaccinated. And as a result, this allows for our own bubble. This allows for the process that as we are fully vaccinated, we could enjoy the process of not needing to wear a mask. And so I don't know if viewers will join us later and not see us wearing a mask and comment on that and ask questions, but I say we're seeing that at the beginning of the program. Now, St. Vincent has gone through a series of crises, not only starting with COVID, but then dengue, and then the La Soufrière eruption, which followed a further outbreak of COVID. And on top of that is the whole economic fallout that engulfs all these particular issues, both as a result of COVID and all sorts of other issues. I want to say that I know that the Vincentian people have been under a tremendous amount of stress, but they are resilient people, and they've shown some level of great fortitude in terms of being able to overcome these particular crises, and I'm hoping that with the assistance of the rest of the world that we've been able to look at this. So with the eruption of La Soufrière, that took much of the focus since April 8th. And we are now back to a situation whereby persons are able to leave some of the shelters and go back to the orange zone, but not those who are to go back to the red zone. There's a cleanup process and so on. But during this process, we have seen some significant things take place, both at a local level with respect to COVID and also at an international level. And I think that it's important to talk about. Currently, there are 2,044 cases that have been reported of COVID-19. There are 199 active cases. There are 12 deaths. Now, normally, I would report what's called the recovered cases as being 1,832. But that whole term recovered cases, we now know is a misnomer. That it isn't true that those persons are fully recovered. They may have something of a negative test, but we found this new concept called long COVID, and a substantial portion of those people who are even listed as being recovered, really and truly, 2 months, 3 months, even after being asymptomatic, they start to develop shortness of breath, chronic fatigue, brain fog. They can have exacerbation of their diabetes or new onset diabetes, which they never had before. They can start having myocarditis, inflammation of their heart, and they can start having a host of other symptoms, loss of taste, loss of smell, which doesn't often get better, it gets worse. Their taste starts to evolve into everything tasting horrible. And then there are people with pins and needles and all sorts of other neurological symptoms. We're worried about...
Would they have been feeling better in between these two phases?
They would have had no symptoms at the time of their infection. They would have been asymptomatic, or they might have had a mild infection, the mild cold, like shortness of breath and so forth. But now we are seeing them with these new symptoms. And I would want persons to Google that phenomena called long COVID to get a better picture. So when I say, and when we put up online 1,832 persons have recovered. I want to say we haven't changed that notation of being recovered, but in truth, the various doctors around the country are reporting to us that they are seeing patients with long COVID. And in other parts of the world, long COVID is rare. In England and so forth, 30% of patients who were asymptomatic are developing long COVID. So I want to note that. But what's of greater importance is that in our shelters, we've had 54 cases. In a church, we had 7 cases, one church. But in the shelters, there's been a serious problem.
What's that?
People are refusing to be tested. We went through several months early in the year where a huge amount of effort and money was put into establishing a new lab just behind the old nurses' hostel. Beautiful lab, state-of-the-art lab. And it was being overwhelmed, if you remember. Mm-hmm. People had to wait a long time. People had to miss their flight trying to get back to Canada. Well, the amount of testing has plummeted because people are saying they have been told to refuse the test, not to take the test. I'm not saying they've been saying not to take the vaccine. Yes, they've also they're exercising their fundamental right not to take the vaccine as a choice. But they also say they also have a fundamental right not to be tested. They're refusing tested, and the amount of testing in St. Vincent has dropped. So the point I'm making, these 54 cases, we believe, is but the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. And that...
Because where there's one case, there are bound to be several other
and
cases.
where persons are congregated together, where they may not be wearing masks as frequently as they should, in a proper way that they should, there are far more cases and we're not able to pick it up. I want to cite the late, great Jerry George, who last year used to be knocking on the doors of the COVID task force and say, you're not doing enough testing. Not enough testing is being done. And we did step up and start doing a lot more testing, screening, antigen tests, antibody tests, all the sort of things, if you recall. You know? And he must be really rolling now in heaven, wondering why are we not testing? And I think we need to get into that in some detail.
Why are people, in fact, refusing to be tested? What can we attribute this to?
I am here, on one hand, representing the COVID-19 task force, but I'm also a citizen of St. Vincent. I'm a citizen of the world. And I want to speak as a medical doctor and as a citizen, and not so much as a member of the task force. I listened to the leaders of several unions. The Public Service Union, the Teachers Union, and the Police Welfare Association, along with their lawyers who were advising them. And they were talking about the right of people because swabs or things were being pushed into their orifices and so forth. And they essentially, whether they did not even say it in words, they weren't just telling people that they had a right not to take the vaccine. They were essentially also telling people you have a right not to be tested. And people got that message, took it, and ran with it. And they have been refusing the test. So from a public health point of view, we do not have the tools to be able to make the decisions as regards where to deploy services or exactly how things should be done. And efforts are being made to take back that whole process in hand so that we have some control over people's public health, over the public health of the nation, and not leave it to selfish personal views, even though that may be a fundamental right of your personal choice. I firmly believe that I should not have the choice and the ability to infect you. I might have a choice to protect, to say, okay, I have a freedom not to be vaccinated. But I don't believe that somebody has a choice to say, even if I'm positive, I'm going to infect you. If I had TB, and it is an infectious type of TB, I shouldn't have the choice to walk through Tokyo and infect people with TB, go to a church and infect people who I'm having fellowship with, go to a cricket game or something like that and infect people. If I had HIV disease, I should not have the choice to willfully go and infect other people. And I've seen those kind of situations before. And from a public health point of view, we deal with those things. And I feel with corona, persons I don't believe should have the choice as part of their fundamental freedom to infect somebody else and ultimately possibly kill that other person.
When we come back after this first break, we're going to talk about where does the Public Health Act come into play as far as this is concerned. Yeah. We'll be right back.
This one is fabulous.
Yes, fabulous. It's Fabulous 500, another $5 scratch game from the NLE, loaded with $500 cash prizes.
With a top prize of $25,000.
You have 10 chances to win.
Fabulous $500.
There's cash to catch with just a scratch. Fabulous. Fabulous 500.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, June 4th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
On Friday, June 4th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $290,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $290,000.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
Welcome back. At the last break, we were talking about the role of public health in protecting the health and the rights of people.
Yes.
Where does the Act stand?
I want to say to our viewers and listeners, public health laws are very complex as they cover a wide range of entities, and it may not be possible in this short program to go through all the details of public health law and public health common sense. But what I think needs to be said is in the word itself, the public's health. And we're talking about our nation, the overall health of a nation, from the youngest child to the most elderly individual, to the most vulnerable and so forth, not of one individual. And we all have to be in this together. I want to say one of the core principles of public health is that I cannot say, I am all right, pull up the plank, pull up the ladder. I can't say, I'm only thinking about myself, about my own right. And to hell with your right, to hell with everybody's right. And it's reversed in the sense that what I do that's bad, if I'm a drunk driver, I'm going to kill somebody on the street. If I mentioned I have TB, I'm going to infect other people. And if you have COVID and you are going to transmit it, you are going to affect someone else. And if that person is vulnerable, that person may die. I want to say this. I had said when we had our 10th death, I hope we do not have an 11th and a 12th. I am of the view that the 11th and the 12th did not necessarily need to happen. And the other deaths that may take place in St. Vincent do not need to happen. And if they happen, therefore there may be some responsibility for this. For those persons who are laughing today that they are slowing down the vaccination program. They feel joyous, they're slowing it down. But you never slow it down. It may pause for a while before it takes off again. And it will take off. I know that major effort is being made to obtain some additional vaccines. And we are going to go about in terms of the explanation of these vaccines in a completely different way. And in the same way, we have to talk more about public health law. And there'll be more programs on public health law so people understand, you know?
So before you go further, Dr. Alwyn Leacock is agreeing with you here. He's saying that stance by the union leaders, in essence, said that there are rights and there are rights. They gave the impression that the right to refuse trumps the right to accept, and that's what's sad. You can't be preaching that you have a right to deliberately expose yourself to a disease that you can pass on to others in your family and close bubble and kill them and the public and not have a consequence. What you are saying is that a murderer has the right to go about murdering.
Some people may say this in a different way, but I endorse what Dr. Leacock is saying. There has to be consequences of certain actions. Now, the information, I gave you the profile of St. Vincent Grenadines. We've had 50 new COVID-19 cases today. But guess what? The amount of testing is down. Really, there should have been more testing, and it might have picked up not 15 cases, but 50 or 60 cases. When we have those kind of, it tells you what the trends are. And it helps us to direct the educational program a little more intensely in terms of where those cases are. Mm-hmm. But we know we have to do it nationally, and we're going to continue doing that. But I believe we are facing an even bigger danger. And I want everybody to see this chart. I hope you're able to see it. This virus is the original virus that we actually have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Earlier this year, we had reports that the UK Kent strain that Alwyn Leacock, I'm sure, is experiencing in England, was in Barbados. It was in St. Lucia. I was in Trinidad. We sent down multiple samples to Trinidad, to CAFA, and they said, we don't have it here. Now, everyone may have heard of the South African strain, but I want to tell you, the British Kent strain is 50 times more contagious than the strain that we have been seeing here in St. Vincent. The Brazilian strain is 100 times more contagious. And guess what? The Indian strain, right? The B167 out of India is 250 times more contagious than the strain we've seen. Right now, the Indian strain is going through Bolton, England. After England's great success, they're now having an outbreak in certain parts of England, the UK, in places like Bolton and so forth. Trinidad, 3 days ago, reported that out of 365 positive tests, 100 of them was the Brazilian P1 strain, and about 30 was the UK Kent strain. So they have a serious problem. But Trinidad is quite close to us. People are going to move and fly from England and the UK.
As you say that, I was asked yesterday whether or not we have the variant here, the Indian variant here, as a matter of fact. I was asked that last night. So can you confirm, deny?
Thank God we don't have the Indian strain here yet.
Or any other strain for that matter.
Well, I personally believe that we do have the Kent strain, but we're not testing right now to the degree that we should. And if we test, you've got to find out, you have to have the evidence before you act. And I believe, so there's no direct evidence. I have to confer with the CMO, who would have the latest information and will be able to post that if it does. But as of, I've just returned from the United States. You understand? So before I left to go off to the United States, the UK Kent strain was not confirmed here yet. I don't know if it is here yet, but for sure, the Indian strain is not here yet, and I hope it doesn't come here, because 250 times contagious means that it could potentially stick on our society. And I'm not ginning up fear. Everyone has seen the news, what's happening in India, where they can't even bury bodies properly. One of the reasons why I was also in the States, my professor, one of the greatest infectious disease specialists in North America, he went off to India for a week. He caught the Indian strain and died. So this is a serious strain, and I'm sure questions will come out in relation to that. How did he manage to get it? But these strains in societies whereby people are very congregated, and you know, India has a lot of poverty, a lot of wealth, but a lot of poverty. A lot of people living in streets, in slums and so forth, and it's easy for those kind of viruses to spread. And they've been having a lot of activities like political campaigns and festivals and so. They've been having cricket, and all those things have allowed for the Indian strain to spread, killing thousands of people on a daily basis.
Yeah, so we don't have that yet.
We do not have it.
What about Trinidad, which is close by?
There is no direct, but they're watching for this. But they have the Brazilian strain, P1, which at the time was the worst strain around. You understand? Brazil has been literally decimated, ravaged in terms of northern Brazil. And it's causing a lot of problems. Now, maybe it's that we're not hearing about what's going on around the world. Because we get news predominantly from the UK and maybe England, the United States. In the United States, they have been very successful in their program. I went to the US, and people, the order was being given that's in New York, since they had reached 50% vaccination rate. Imagine New York, which was once the epicenter of COVID in the Western world. they had reached 50% vaccination rate and were able to tell people, because this vaccination was so successful, you could now take off your mask in open air. You basically could start going back to school. They opened up back to schools.
Go out to dine.
And you go out to dine. I went to some restaurants in places. They had moved all the restaurants out onto the streets. Where cars normally park, they now have tables and so people are dining out in the open, right? So maybe a model also for us to look at. But the big difference between New York and the United States and us is they have vaccination rates going up, approaching 50% in many places, heading for their 70% herd immunity target. Whereas for us, our level of vaccination is just above 20,000 persons. And a number of persons have not received even their second dose. In other words, they say it's about maybe 16,000 persons who've been vaccinated. But that isn't coming close enough to our target that we could tell our population, you could now take off your mask. You could now return to normal activities. Economic activity could take place again. And the public health is sound and secure. We have to continue the fight to make absolutely sure that we reach there. And nothing should hold us back.
And we'll talk some about that when we come back from the second break. Back in a moment.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, June 4th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way. Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
This one is fabulous.
Yes, fabulous. It's Fabulous 500, another $5 scratch game from the NLE, loaded with $500 cash prizes.
With a top prize of $25,000.
You have 10 chances to win.
Fabulous $500.
There's cash to catch with just a scratch. Fabulous. Fabulous 500.
On Friday, June 4th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $290,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next lotto jackpot, $290,000.
Welcome back. Just before the break, we were talking about the importance of stepping up that vaccine drive to ensure that we achieve the herd immunity that is necessary to protect the entire population. One of the things that was divulged with the recent test is the fact that we, in fact, have children, younger children, being diagnosed with COVID here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We know in the past that it's been said that the disease does not affect the younger population as much as it does the older generation. So what are your thoughts on this new development where the children are testing positive?
It is of great concern, especially as we always aspire to have persons go back to school. And I'm not talking about CSEC and going and doing CAPE exams and that sort of stuff. I'm talking about people going back to school. We've seen, like again, in India, the Indian strain definitely affecting a lot of younger persons. In many countries, we've seen younger teenagers being affected. And that's why a number of the vaccine manufacturers have done studies, and some of these vaccines have now been approved for kids from the age of 12 to 18 as well. And that is ongoing. We may not be at that particular stage yet, but I believe that we want more adults to become vaccinated, and a decision will be made with regards to children in due course by the public health officials as regards when that might take place. You know, it may be something that might come relatively soon, but I don't really want anyone to expect that this is something that's going to occur tomorrow, and that decision has not yet been made.
Okay, because 27% of cases are 18 years and younger.
Yes.
And we have had children as young as 1 year old testing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yes, yes.
There's also been reports, we're moving on to the vaccine issue now, reports associating some deaths with the COVID vaccine.
Yes.
Can you let us know if that...
Well, not in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me say that the reports of clotting had surfaced several months ago. And the thinking is that, yes, some of the vaccines have been associated with rare incidents of clotting. It's interesting, a country like Germany had 33 cases of clotting, of which 2 persons had died. However, they could not tell if those cases of clotting was related to other causes of clotting. But they had these 33 cases. At the same time, 33 cases in the space of 3 months, every single day they had 550 persons dying from the COVID-19 virus itself. So I'm making the case, 33 persons may have had clotting, of which 2 died over a 3-month period. And every single day in Germany, there was over 500 persons dying from the virus itself, which is one of the most notorious inducers of clotting. I think we now accept that there can be rare cases of clotting that may be associated with certain types of vaccines, not all. And we now know how to treat it, how to prevent it, and there's greater scrutiny as regards persons who may have had deep vein thrombosis and other clotting episodes and so in the past. But it is so rare that we don't really see it as being a major problem. There wasn't a suggestion in Trinidad that they might have had their first case, but we haven't seen it in any of the other islands in the Caribbean. And we have to be open and honest with the people in terms of these particular things. But what I do want to say, and what is of tremendous importance, is that the vaccine prevents COVID disease. Does it prevent COVID disease? The answer is resoundingly yes. In the 90th percentile. By that I mean 92, 94, 95% of persons, it will prevent COVID-19 disease. This is a question that people were asking in the early stage of the pandemic. And we were saying, yes, we're not sure and so forth if it fully prevents. Because it wasn't doing it 100%, some persons may have felt a little shy of saying that there was a small percentage of persons who may then get it mildly. But I want to put it, now that we have over 1 billion people who've been vaccinated, we now know that the vaccines prevent COVID disease in over 90%. And the other question is, does it prevent transmission? Does the vaccine prevent transmission? The answer again is yes. After the first dose, 68%, and after the second dose, 90%. These are big figures. And because it isn't 100%, guess what? People interpret it. Since it isn't 100, it must be 0. If it's not 100, it must be 0. That is wrong. It is doing this so well. The vaccine, during the studies, was giving us figures. And in real life, real world data, as we call it, we are finding more people benefiting in the vaccine being more effective than we actually thought. And so people be asked the question, why should I take the vaccine if it isn't going to prevent me from getting the disease? They were asking the question. It is going to prevent you 90-something%. And why should I take the vaccine if it's going to not prevent transmission of disease? It will prevent transmission, and these are excellent figures. And people ask, why do I need to wear a mask if I vaccinate? You will be told not to wear a mask, but not yet. You understand? Until we get our number. We want to get into the zone like the United States, where they have percentages of vaccination that's much higher. Then we can say, all right, everybody, let's have a party. Let's go somewhere and so forth. Let's go Mount Wayne. Let's go South Africa, Congo Valley. Let's do what, you know what I mean? But right now, we are unable to do it. We'd be irresponsible to do that because the vaccination rate is low. And we're irresponsible also because we are not vaccinating when we should.
Somebody is saying, why not focus the vaccination campaign for those that will likely get impacted more, those with underlying medical conditions, etc., the old and the vulnerable. But I think that is just what we've been doing.
We have been doing that, but guess what? In the same household, there are people who are less vulnerable. Young persons, when you pick up the virus, you are going to carry it home to your vulnerable granny who has blood pressure and sugar. And we may say just focus on them alone, just vaccinate them alone. But you, especially if you're an anti-vaxxer, if you're a person who don't believe in that, the worst thing you could do is to tell your granny or your mother, don't go take that vaccine, or bully them into not taking the vaccine. And because you don't believe in it for your own personal self. But the risk you bring is that you're going out to work, to a party, to an event, and you're bringing it back home to them who have no choice but to receive the virus and hope that it doesn't affect them, doesn't kill them. That's the harsh reality. I know we're talking some rough language today, you know what I mean? But sometimes we talk in niceties. We talk in kosher kind of language to make things sound nice. But there are a lot of elderly people out there who want to take the vaccine and are being denied, are being prevented from doing so. They're scared. They want to take the vaccine. They know all this joke stuff about mark of the beast and a chip in the vaccine and all that kind of thing. They know that's a joke. And people are still pushing that. And it's sad. It's sad.
Okay. So somebody's saying the messaging will remain ineffective. That one seems to have just disappeared. They were saying something about the messaging will remain to the effect that it will remain ineffective if the state, the protocols and so on that the state put into place are not enforced.
There is this debate about whether or not you should make certain things mandatory. Believe it or not, in Italy, they've made all healthcare workers vaccinate. Several countries of the world have gone. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts has said so. The Prime Minister of Antigua. Several individuals have brought this up. Even in the United States, it's been raised to some degree. The big thing, it's all a matter of timing. We have to allow that voluntary process to take place. And we are appealing to people to take the vaccine. But what's taking place is that there's a coalition. You'd be surprised, the original anti-vaxxers were never effective. They've now joined with the anti-big pharma. People who are against the pharmaceutical companies. They hate Pfizer, they hate Moderna, they hate AstraZeneca, they hate them. Then there are those who are anti-mask. You know, we know they're anti-mask people. They don't want any mask. Even when Sufre was erupting, they were saying don't wear no mask. The dust is not a problem. You understand? Breathe in the dust. It ain't gonna bother you. I'm telling you. And then there's QAnon. QAnon, the most conspiracy-ridden thing. They targeted the black people of the southern part of the United States with a host of things. They were telling them, don't vote on Monday. The voting date is on a Tuesday. Or there's no more bus to go to the polls on the Sunday. They've canceled that. They tried everything. But you know what they also did? They sent out social media about the mark of the beast. They would say, remember Tuskegee. They were the ones pushing those things.
And they seem to have been effective. We'll talk some about that when we come back after this final break. Back in a moment.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
This one is fabulous.
Yes, fabulous. It's Fabulous 500. Another $5 scratch game from the NLE. Loaded with $500 cash prizes.
With a top prize of $25,000.
You have 10 chances to win.
Fabulous $500.
There's cash to catch with just a scratch. Fabulous. Fabulous 500.
Welcome back. You started a discourse with QAnon, and so that you could go right into that. And when you come back, these are some things to think about. Pregnancy increases the risk of a blood clot in women 6 times. The background risk: would we stop taking part in activities to become pregnant? And someone else is saying that the lack of definitive action computer is overrunning me today, by the government in making the job of the health professionals hard and ineffective. I live in Maryland, and we know clearly that if we violate the orders handed down by our government, we will be prosecuted, hence a high level of compliance. And, well, you can...
Yes.
You can...
What's taking place is that there's a movement in the world that you have freedom of choice to do anything you want for yourself. Don't really bother about other people. And QAnon personifies that. And I was saying to you that they are the cause and the root of a lot of the videos that we have been receiving. They've been sending them not to us, but they've sent them to our friends and our relatives in Atlanta, in Mississippi, in Florida, and so forth. They've sent it to black people, trying to target them so that right now, out of 10 persons taking the vaccine, maybe one is a person of color. The vaccination rate among black people in the United States and the hesitancy is so large, and it is being fueled and induced. So they've sent these videos, our relatives have sent the videos now to us. You know what I mean? The videos haven't come directly from QAnon, and they basically are being used. So there are people around our society who are actively doing the work of QAnon. And what Alwyn said earlier on, even the unions and so don't even realize the damage they are doing. And I call on the unions to redress this in the interest of their members. I call on the lawyers who advise them to stop this nonsense and look at the overall public health good. They are saying, the lawyers are telling them that the criteria has not been met for the type of public health actions we are taking. They're thinking only 12 persons are dead. They're saying that's not enough. In St. Lucia, 77 persons are dead. Now, when you mention about pregnancy, pregnancy is associated with increased clotting. But guess what? Taking a birth control pill is even more risk of clotting. Smoking cigarettes has an even greater risk. And right now today, what has the highest risk is COVID-19. The virus itself is a big clutter. One of the reasons why people die is from strokes, from clots inside their heart, clots inside their lungs, pulmonary emboli. That's how a lot of people die. I really like the question that the person and the statement they were making about the
healthy person.
About a healthy person. But there's a misnomer. We're thinking that it's just the diabetics and the hypertensives and the aged who are the ones who are dying. I'm telling you, in other parts of the world, young little children are dying, we've heard. We have strong, healthy individuals who are dying. No evidence of any sickness, because a blood clot in the wrong place from the virus hitting their brain, hitting their heart, a blood clot forming inside their heart can kill the strongest person to the weakest person. And so it doesn't mean this, it's not true that it's only weak or vulnerable individuals who are becoming affected. They are most affected by all means because of their underlying condition and a weakened immune system. But it is going to be a number of good, strong, healthy individuals, 19 years old, 22 years old, 25 years old, football players, you know, who are also affected. And they should not be or feel safeguarded that, oh, I'm young and strong and only those elderly persons have to bother about this. We have to redress this.
I like this one. We build wall houses in the hope that they will resist a hurricane, but there's no guarantee that a wall house will withstand a Category 5 storm. The COVID pandemic is a storm whose category is increasing with the new variant strains.
Imagine we are now going, the world is experiencing COVID-19 pandemic now for almost 18 months. It's going on, so it's well over a year. And from the start, it wasn't a pandemic when it started in China, but we've now had it for over 18 months, started in China. And it is building up steam. So television may be showing us in the United States, it may be dying down. It's building up steam in a number of, even our friends in Taiwan are seeing an increased spike. We're seeing Australia some elements of outbreak. Places that had it under relatively control. Because it isn't so much that people who are vaccinated are getting reinfected. It is that those individuals who decided that they were not going to take the vaccine, or they were waiting for a while because the vaccine came out too early. So they were waiting for a few months to see what happens to everybody else. They are the ones who becoming infected. And it's okay to wait, but if you wait too long, you could be in some real serious problem.
Just returned from the United States. What were some of the challenges? Because it was your first travel in view of the lockdown and all of that. What were the challenges? What did you experience?
I went up there to see my daughters, my 3 daughters. I also took time to participate in a very special course. I'm not going to talk about the nature of it, but it was very helpful to knowledge on COVID-19, some more detailed issues that are going to come in the future. I found traveling up there was pretty smooth, right? And the way the plane is spaced out, there was nobody in the center seat. So you're nicely spaced out. But when I got to Miami, there was so much people. People are traveling again. And I felt myself congested. So I had to double mask to protect myself. The last thing I wanted to do was to bring back a bad boy strain to St. Vincent. I got to New York, and my daughters, one had just graduated from university, the other one is there. And it was a joy going out on a boat and having dinner there in the open air. I kept on my mask, but they felt comfortable taking off theirs. And I saw around everybody take off their mask. Coming back to Florida and then coming to St. Vincent, again, the lines were just tremendously long. The process of checking in at Miami Airport, I had made a little mistake, and I had not saved properly my online Ministry of Health form that you must fill out. And there was a desk there that said, you cannot get on the plane unless you have filled out that form. And I couldn't find the form, and I had to get some help, my secretary and so forth. We got the form filled, and I was able to show them, this is my form. And the result of that, I want to tell everybody, we have to follow those protocols properly. If they say that you are supposed to fill out a form, a public health form, that tells the public health where you're coming from, have you been in contact with somebody who had COVID, have you had any symptoms and so forth, please fill it out before returning to St. Vincent. If not, the American Airlines officials, there's no Vincentian embassy official there at the airport, it's the American Airlines official will not let you on the plane. I was able to indicate through a special form that I had been vaccinated. And so on return to St. Vincent, I was very happy to find out that if you have been fully vaccinated, you only need to do 2 days in quarantine. I was prepared to do my 5-7 days in quarantine. They said you only need to do 2 days.
So before you left, that was not...
They told me it was coming up. But truthfully, they told me that they were just about to make the decision.
Okay.
And so they told me that they don't want to give me preference in that regard, because it might spread around that they're giving JERROL THOMPSON special treatment. But on return, I had heard that. And Dr. Duncan, when I got in at the airport, right, to see those Ministry of Health personnel and the way they treated me and they treated other persons, they've now reached a certain level of professionalism. The way the swab was taken, I did not feel a thing. Someone had told me, I hurt you. I did not feel a thing. And they really and they went through, I showed them all the details, and I was very happy. And I think Dr. Duncan and his team are doing an absolutely marvelous job. They have protected us from individuals coming in with any disease. They're able to pick it up. And I was able to get my test 2 days after coming in as a vaccinated person. And I was really pleased, I mean, I tell you, I had a drink on that one. You know what I mean? Am I able to say that? Am I able to say that?
Yes, because you know what? It's on a perfect note. I mean, the time is gone.
Yes.
You can't believe it.
Yes.
We have not even been able to touch some of the things we wanted to, but we'll come back because I'm thinking next week we're going to be talking about vaccine hesitancy again.
Yes.
And I'll definitely have you back as usual. Thank you for somebody saying you're doing a great job in educating the population, but there's something called readiness, and our people have to be ready before they will vaccinate. I don't know when that will be, but we'll see. Thank you very much once again, Doc, and see you again sometime soon.
Okay.
Thank you for viewing. Thank you for listening. See you again next week, Wednesday. Goodbye.
Bob. I am a former Miss Pitani, a former Miss Rural SVG and Miss LCD contestant and runner-up. I'm a lawyer by profession, but a pageant lover at heart. Do not let the negatives prey on your mind, because a stitch in time saves 9. So, it's COVID vaccination time. Get vaccinated today to reduce the impact of COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And I urge you, get vaccinated. It is safe and it is effective. Stop the spread, help the fight, and make the choice that is right. And let us unite and do the thing right. More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way, Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
The Super 6 jackpot for Friday, June 4th is $250,000. Super 6, more jackpot money.
More jackpot money, more reasons to play this game. More money for way, Super 6 a bigger jackpot game.
On Friday, June 4th, there'll be thousands of dollars to be won. A lotto jackpot of $290,000. A new home, car, or that college education.
Lotto, you have to be in it to win it.
Next Lotto jackpot, $290,000.
This evening on the VC3 News Update, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is seeking Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines for children. 1,300 respond to Saunders recruitment drive in St. Vincent, and registration for new academic school year begins. Join us at 7 p.m. for these stories and more on the VC3 News Update.
This one is fabulous.
Yes, fabulous. It's Fabulous 500, another $5 scratch game from the NLE, loaded with $500 cash prizes.
With a top prize of $25,000.
You have 10 chances to win.
Fabulous $500.
There's cash to catch with just a scratch. Fabulous. Fabulous 500.